Welcome. It's a privilege and honor for us to have you here.
Thank you.
But we had the third like Bangalore traffic in the
No, it was not traffic problems. I had.
So my younger brother, Devi Prasad, and she's Sonal Basu. And
I'm the legal counsel for
he is now with Wipro.
Okay.
Please.
You are also with Wipro.
Yes.
He's speaking the.
Please, sir. Yes. That this is by way of compliments from National Law School. Of course, I was showing them this. Please keep it.
You know, it's both ways. I could call the people, but it's also, if we are not able to manage, that is, we have to control the device, not let the device control us.
What we call it, we say, good servant, but then I master.
So that's the thing.
Great disappointment with Butch. That's the seventh of its kind, sir. Last time, Anwar and others were here. That's one of the most popular events National Law School University. So Mitra continues to teach here. Thank you, Mitra. Press school university about 2 years ago. So that's how people cloud.
But I think a lot has to be done on the mitigation front because there's an element of fear on the buyer side. So that the industry should drive it.
Yeah. Because it's a disruption to existing way of doing things. And when it's a disruption to existing way of doing things, you have to figure out how you can leverage it properly. But the business model has to be different. How you use cloud computing. Your relationship with your supplier changes because your dependence on the supplier.
Good morning to all present. On behalf of the Law and Technology Society, it is my privilege to welcome you here today for Consilience 2013-14, our annual conference on legal issues pertaining to technology law. The conference is based on a theme of contemporary relevance and in the past has focused on themes like internet intermediary liability, business process outsourcing, data security and cyber surveillance, to name a few. Managed entirely by students, Consilience has seen participation from speakers from diverse backgrounds, ranging from industry, legal and policy arena. The theme for this year's conference is legal issues pertaining to cloud computing. It is now commonplace that with the advent of cloud computing, many individuals and businesses are increasingly dependent on this powerful and massive method of information storage. It has changed the way business and data management is done, and with this cloud computing comes with its own set of legal and technical issues. It is argued that the costly and potentially time-consuming consequences it is capable of generating make cloud computing hardly a perfect solution to today's problems. Such arguments and many others pertaining to the extent and limits of cloud computing will be discussed over the weekend at the conference. Ganapathy Gopalakrishnan. Mr. Gopalakrishnan needs no introduction. A pioneer in business management, Mr. Gopalakrishnan a Padma Bhushan awardee, is a role model for many in the country today. He co-founded one of the most reputed companies of the world, Infosys, in 1981. He has held key designations in the company throughout, and at present is the executive vice chairman of the company. He's also the president of Confederation of Indian Industries presently. And without wasting any more time, I would now request our Professor Vice Chancellor to felicitate Mr. Gopalakrishnan.
It's a privilege, honor, and pleasure for us, sir. This is where the mind is without fear, taboos.
We are honored to have you, sir, here.
Sir. Would agree with me when I say these are the times of Krish, and it's my privilege to welcome Krish Gopalakrishnan to this August gathering. Technology travels at exponential pace, but human minds travel at linear space. And that sums up our responses to the fast developing changes in technology, which we are trying our best to cope with them. In keeping with the tradition of National Law School of India University, the wonderful annual event called Consilience, conceptualized by our amazingly talented students, takes up every year an emerging theme on which there would be a focused qualitative discussion to find out durable solutions to make surroundings around us a better place to live in. This morning's exercise on cloud computing is a part of it, sir, and I deem it a privilege on my behalf, on behalf of National Law School of India University, and on behalf of my student friends, to welcome you, sir, Sri Gopalakrishnan ji, to this August gathering. Just a couple of minutes on cloud computing before I would disappear in the clouds and, like you, give my best ears to the keynote address of Krish Gopalakrishnan. Cloud computing has transformed the knowledge society by offering enterprises the opportunities to decouple their IT needs and their infrastructure. Therefore, it has given rise to new business models. And when a new business model is born, you have the consequent, not insurmountable problems. And today, I will take this opportunity to quote from Michio Kaku's wonderful book, Physics of the Future, the inventions that will transform our lives. He says, we are fast reaching an era of cloud computing where you will be billed not for computers, but for computer time. Treating computation like a utility that is metered like water or electricity is an early example of this. And Kaku goes to, I quote him, he continues, when technologies become widely dispersed, such as electricity and running water, they eventually become utilities. With capitalism driving down prices and increasing competition, these technologies will be sold like utilities. That is, we don't care from where they are coming, but we pay for them only when we want them. This is very important. We will be paying for them only when we want them. The same applies for computation. Cloud computing, which relies heavily on the internet for most computing functions, will gradually gain popularity. Cloud computing reduces computation to a utility, something that we pay for only when we need it, and something we don't think about when we don't need it. Now, this is going to be the emerging future. But what are the legal challenges that are going to rise? Will the government, like the sun, play hide and seek with the clouds and increase its surveillance and invade the privacy? Now, will the ambit of the consumer's protection increase so wide as to include the cloud computing? Now, will the traditional notion of liability be required to have a relook, because the focus is on intermediary liability, etc., etc.? These are some of the straws in the wind, and we look forward to the erudition of the speakers who have come all the way. And what better way to start it than to have the keynote address by Chris Gopalakrishnan. I wish the conference and proceedings a very fruitful discussion. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Rao, friends, it's a great privilege for me to be here today. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interact with you on a very interesting topic, and something which I have been talking about actually in various forums, and I think later Pamela is going to talk to you. She has already heard actually me speak on the same subject at the Cloud Innovation Council actually, and I would also recommend that you get their publication. It will be a wonderful survey of the topic, and one of the chapters in that is about the legal aspects of cloud computing, and I would recommend you look at that. Professor Venkat Rao actually defined cloud computing as a utility. It's a utility, but with a difference. When you use electricity as a utility, water as a utility, typically it gives you energy, it gives you water. When it comes to computing, and computing is about information, it's about logic, it's about processing. It's actually, we are still grappling with actually what it means in fact, and how powerful this utility is and what we can do with that utility. Electricity allowed us to automate tasks, mechanical tasks. It powers factories, powers production, of course powers our televisions, computers, etc. But still, it only replaces, if you look at how it augments, all these utilities are augmenting human capacity, human capability. So what it replaces or what it augments is our physical capabilities. Whereas computing is going to augment our mental capabilities, augment our brain, which is an organ which we have not yet understood. And so I'm going to actually start off by differing with Professor Venkat Rao when he said that human mind is linear. I completely disagree here actually, because the capacity of human mind is unlimited. And we say in software engineering that the productivity of one individual to another individual can be a factor of 10. Same education, same inputs, but the output can be vastly different. I'm sure that in the legal profession also it probably is the same. People go through the same set of classes and things like that, but one lawyer is better than another lawyer, right? It's all because of thinking. It's because of what is inside our brain, and significant difference from one individual to another individual, because we still have not understood how the brain functions. And so computing is actually a tool that augments our thinking, logic. Brain also stores information, storage of information. In fact, I'm actually deviating from the topic, but in order to fully appreciate, I think you need to understand this. For the first time in the history of the world, history of civilization, history of living beings, knowledge is transferred outside the human body, outside the living being. First time, I believe. Because till now, the transfer of knowledge, whatever we used to transfer to the next generation, used to be through the genes and the DNA, etc. Right? But for the first time, we can actually store this outside our body, and our children can learn from that. Of course, now with the same set of knowledge, we are artificially creating life. So lots and lots of things are changing, and of course that's a completely different area where legal scholars will have to discuss and debate what it means, if you are able to actually control the formation of life itself. Anyway, let me, these are fascinating subjects, and I'm quite sure that there will be lots of discussions, debates amongst you. So let me just talk about the topic at hand, and my goal is to set the tone for the rest of the day. At a higher level, I will set some and I'll put across some perspectives and questions, and hopefully that will stimulate discussions today and in the future. The definition, I don't want to spend too much time. Professor Venkatrao talked about utility, use when you need it. Talked about on-demand, pay-for-use. One thing he didn't talk about, and this is again a difference between the traditional definition of utility, which is electricity, water, etc. It can't be too far away, because the losses in transmission, the cost of moving water from one continent to another continent is prohibitive, whereas in computing, cost is almost zero. Well, of course, there is a cost of putting up the fiber optic cables and things like that, but once it's put, the actual transmission of that data is practically at zero cost. So it is location independent. In fact, many a time when you use utilities like mail, you don't realize that the data is probably going all the way to the US to some server there, gets redirected back to another student here in the National Law School. But we don't realize that it's actually going across continents and coming back here to India. So it's in some sense independent of the location. We don't worry about the location, and